Hey, I'm Bobby from D&D Horror Stories, and you're watching Rated T for TTRPG.
Hey guys, we've got another more typical horror story today, at least I imagine, with the subject of DM makes several terrible calls, gets upset when there's pushback.
This is either going to be really like, what's the word I'm looking for? Over over exaggerated on what the DM's going to be doing, and it's just a player being upset, or this DM is making horrible calls. There's no in between.
I feel like you and I tend to lean on the side of the DM, so I think this will be good for us to see how bad we think the calls are.
I think the ideas are usually pretty good at what they're trying to do, but the execution is normally terrible.
Well, it starts with, look, I get it. The DM makes the rules, blah, blah, blah. But when you have a DM removing stats from ability checks, trying to remove the ranger's ability to not get lost in their favored terrain because it's overpowered bullshit, and overall just having a bad attitude, unless they're winning, it gets old.
Yeah, no, that's already a pretty bad call in my opinion. Because like that's the
Yeah,
Rangers' whole thing. They're
I,
nature rogues.
as I'm getting to finally be a player a little bit more again with my brother DMing, that would piss me
Mm-hmm.
off.
I like Rangers.
I have no issue approaching. Yeah, but the Rangers are terrible in
Yeah, no, no,
2024 now, and
yeah,
I am one.
yeah. Well, 5e kind of ruined Rangers in general.
I have no issue approaching disagreements head on, and would take time after each session to have a conversation about things that myself and other players didn't like with the DM. They would dismiss literally everything. One point even saying the other players suck at D&D, so it makes sense that their characters are stupid. I was speechless at that statement.
Okay, how he worded it, do not agree with. Like he should not have said that, but I kind of understand what he's saying.
What? No, that
No,
dungeon
no,
master's
no,
an
no, no. I'm with
asshole.
you on that. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not siding with the DM. I'm just saying I know what he's talking about because when I DM, like I DM, so it was their first time. Awesome, I can work with that. I've worked with a lot of first time players. She like immediately the first thing she did was go out and start attacking guards as like a level 3, and then was got upset that it had consequences like, hey, you're in jail now.
Okay, yeah, if you don't know the game and you're also if you don't know the game, then your player can tend to be a bit stupid.
Yeah,
Then in the role play aspects, I get that.
yeah, but
Many
this DM
sessions,
just that should not have been said at
yeah.
all.
Yeah, that's
Don't
gonna
call your
discourage your
players stupid.
players. Never do that. Many sessions later, each with their own accompanying horror story, we reach the topic of conversation. So the party reaches an area in a large, inescapable dungeon. This area has an NPC spellcaster that is amicable, if not snooty. Literally everything in this dungeon has tried to kill us with no exception. So my character shuts the door to the room and confers with the party that we're definitely killing this guy, right? And the party agrees.
Fair assumption. If everything's
Yeah,
tried to kill you, like, yeah,
that's gonna be what I'm gonna assume.
yeah.
Everything's tried to kill us so far, so the bad guy's a bad guy. I have made that mistake as the dungeon master, though, making just the BBEG at the end of the dungeon be a good guy, and it doesn't make any sense. So if that's what you're trying to do as the dungeon master, let me tell you ahead of time, it doesn't make any sense. Don't do it.
Sprinkle hints of like it turns out he's the hostage.
Yeah, make all of the violent NPCs, yeah, talk about that kind of stuff
Yeah,
and refer to those things about the BBEG. You got to drop the hints, make them make some insight
make it
rolls.
make sense.
As we're discussing, DM says, suddenly the area around you is filled with darkness. And I ask, does this look similar to the darkness we've seen our Warlock cast? DM hesitantly says, yes. So I tell the group in character that as soon as this drops, we rush the bastard and tell the DM that the moment the darkness drops, my character is rushing through the door. After a minute or two, DM says, everyone make a dexterity saving throw. We all ask why, They say that a wall of fire is hitting all of us. Mind you, the darkness is still up, the doors still shut, and we're all in a twisting hallway. I bring up that both Wall of Fire and Darkness require concentration, and Wall of Fire requires line of sight. DM spends 15 minutes reading each spell.
There are ways around that. I would have honestly, even if I had forgotten about it, okay, well, hey, here's some gear you could possibly get. But yeah, once you get in the room, you'll understand, is all I would say to that. There's gear that lets you drop concentration or like not use concentration, like scrolls. And then there's also, because I have this in your game, Ring of X-Ray. Hey, I can see through this. That means it's line of sight now.
Yeah, but I have a quick tip that I feel like has been a lot of fun for you guys if you have to spend 15 minutes reading a spell for interpreting it because you forgot what it did. Bring
Happens.
your players into the interpretation, like show them the spell and see like how they kind of interpret it, like make sure they
Yeah.
understand that you're the dungeon master so you have final say, but they should still get input.
Yeah,
It
like
makes you
play
guys
out the
feel
vibe.
involved. Yeah.
Like, and that's why I always hate how like rule lawyers and everything get shat on when it's like they're kind of important to have at like one at the table as long as they're not like snooty and as long as it's not a well actually type of
Yeah.
lawyer and more of a okay how are we running this so that way I can use it later.
Well, he then says the darkness falls, but the wall of fire still hits all of us. We ask how he's casting it through the door. DM says it simultaneously burst through the door as he cast it. I state since the darkness dropped, that would have triggered my movement, but DM argues that it happened too quickly to react. What?
I I understand the too quickly to react for some things, not necessarily in this situation because
Now,
like the
if you're
player already queued up like what
yeah,
they
if your
wanted to
player
do.
queues up, your player queues up. They get to do what's
Yeah.
next, and he was queued up for that scenario.
Yeah.
We're all flabbergasted at this shenaniganery and ask, since Wall of Fire requires line of sight to cast, how did he cast it through the door, through the darkness, and through a twisting hallway with pinpoint precision to hit everyone? He can see the layout of the dungeon in his mind.
Well, no, like okay, that's a cop out. But you like draw something out. Like this is where I fully like when using AoE spells, draw out the area. Do a crude drawing. Use a fridge and some dry erase markers, honestly. I use that for years. But like I understand why he would use Wall of Fire in that instance cuz like you can shape it. But I don't like this scene
I
already.
love that as a bullshit excuse. He sees it in his mind.
It's so dumb.
That's totally something I
My
would use as a
no,
cop out.
one hundred
He
percent. But
sees it in
like,
his
do you
mind.
mind
Fuck
sharing with the
you.
rest of the class?
Yeah, that's then I'm gonna be like, okay, fine. If you've memorized I've assumed you've memorized your bastion, so you can do the same thing in your bastion. That's what I would allow to make up for that total bullshit reasoning.
It's a fucking divination wizard. Leave him alone.
Oh man, he can see it in his mind. After some back and forth, DM's now shouting, "You all freak out and never let anything play out." So we calm down and say, "All right, let's let this play out."
That's honestly, in my opinion, that should have happened in the beginning. But if there had been no like, just let it play out. The except for like a few parts where like the other player queued up first. I'm siding with the player on that one.
I can agree as a DM though that if it's true, which from this player's perspective I don't think it is, but when your players are calling out and questioning literally everything that you do as a dungeon master,
It gets
that
annoying.
sucks. Our sorcerer is up and says they throw a fireball in the room. You can't see in there due to the flames. What? Some more back and forth, and the insane flip flopping on rule interpretations. Eventually, DM relents and the fireball is cast. Our rogue, who's playing through Discord and can't quite see the map, started in the
Hmm,
fire, so they took damage. They then
that's
asked to
unfair.
move out of the fire and ask the DM if they're out of the fire and won't take damage. DM with a smirk says, "Yes, you're out of the fire and safe." I know how Wall of Fire works, but keep my mouth shut because surely the DM wouldn't tell a player they're safe when they're not.
Yeah, I can understand the
Nope.
smirk of going, yep, you're out of the fire, but like wall of fire has like one side is just getting radiated with heat. And I think yeah, I'm with the player saying that oh yeah, they're safe when they're not is kind of horseshit.
Yeah, plus if you can't see the map.
Yeah, like send this is why I don't like hybrid parties of like some over Discord, some on the table, like commit to one.
Yeah. As the turn ends, you take 36 points of fire damage. Rogue is asking why. DM is saying they're too close to the fire. Everyone is asking why the DM thinks the character is so stupid that they would stay where they're actively being burned.
Yeah.
DM says since it's magical, they don't realize they're being burned.
No.
What?
That's not how that works at all.
At this point, I'm packing my stuff up. DM says we're moving on to Banachop's turn. I say, nah, I'm out. I'm done with these insane combative rulings. Everyone is begging me to sit back down. I say, I know exactly how my turn will play out, but let's find out for fun. For visual imaging, my character was nearest the door, about 15 feet away in a straight 5 foot wide hallway. The wall of fire filled said hallway, the only way out being to continue through the wall of fire. I sit back down. My character started their turn in the wall of fire, so they already took damage. I say I move through the wall towards the wizard's dick. DM says you take more fire damage. I ask how in the evergreen fuck do I take more damage since I never left the wall of fire. I can't enter as I move through it, so no damage should occur. Their argument, so you enter a new square in the wall of fire, so you take more damage. I kind of see that.
No, no,
I
I'm
kind of see that.
no, I get no that part I get. Um I actually agree with that ruling. That makes sense. Um I don't know. Like this
Well,
is
this is exactly how I anticipated they'd rule it. So I packed back up to leave again. The DM relents on that decision to get me to sit back down. Against my better judgment, I do. My character rushes in and smashes the NPC's head in, ending the fight. Session continues and ends shortly after. Sidebar: a character died in a previous session, and DM says, too bad that fireball went through the way to find player's new character was in there. Okay, bud.
that's now you're just being a dick to be a dick.
We played one more session after that one, culminating with another character dying to some more combative shenaniganery. So now that campaign has ended. Now I DM for most of the players in that group, much to their satisfaction with far less, none, DM versus player rulings. I'm posting this right before I go to bed and will answer questions if any when I wake up.
See, I like playing my D&D games of DM versus player. Basically, DM sets up a dungeon. It's set up within what the players could accomplish, but you know, the dice gods hate us a lot. Um but it shouldn't be like that. Like that's I don't know, that's like ego mania at that point. You're just playing into your own ego at that
Yeah,
point.
in my opinion, to an extent, but I think I get what you're getting at. It should never be DM versus player because then your players aren't going to be having fun. And it's all going to be like on the dice. If the dice is letting the DM kick the player's ass, they're not having fun. If the player's dice are getting to kick the DM's ass, the DM's not having fun because you both view that you're against each other. Plus, then the DM gets into the terrible habit of just creating encounters that the players aren't going to be able to freaking win.
That's
That was
not
what
fun.
happened in my last session with my brother, and I had to have a conversation with him. I was like, "Look, we're not having fun. I get that you have a history of really bad rolls, but you created an encounter that was totally going to destroy us, and your rolls were going good for it, and you're delighting in destroying us, and that sets me off as a player. When the DM is delighting killing his players, oh,
Oh,
that gets me up and out.
you're not gonna like my boss fights in mind, because at that point I roll open, I don't fudge my numbers, but like
Well,
getting
rolling
to that
open
point.
is
Well, no, because like I design it to where it's like I'm trying to kill you guys, but I'm trying to do it fairly.
right. That's different than what I'm talking
Okay,
about. I'm
okay.
talking about like when your players have missed all of their hits for the
Mm.
past 3 rounds and you've nailed all of yours, and then you go, does a 21 hit? Yeah, motherfucker, you already know a 21 hits and you're already kicking my ass. Can
June's
I
fine.
leave yet?
June's fine.
Yeah.
Um,
We were level 4.
that's fair. Oh
So, yeah,
no,
that
that's
stuff gets me out of the
because like
table.
I've done games like that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Where like I've been a player in it, and it's like, okay, yeah, the CR we're going against. It was like, well, you're supposed to do this or you're supposed to do that. And it's like there was no indication of like anything. Like if I'm going to throw something like outside of your like way outside of your guys' CR, I'm going to show you signs of like, hey, go do this or hey, run the fuck away. Like I'm going to give you something.
And that's stuff that we can have fun with, and
Yeah,
that's for me, that's always the most important thing for me as a dungeon master, is I'm having the most fun when you guys are having fun.
that's fair.
And that's what's always important to me, is everybody's got to have fun. It's a
every
group game,
every
and that's
now
the
and then,
point.
whenever like my players get really cocky with shit, they're like, "Oh, this we could take this." I will straight up add zeros to stats because it's like, "Oh, okay, you want to get that kind of cocky? Okay, okay."
I'm not afraid to run away. That was what we did in
No,
that
that's fair.
encounter, because as soon as the DM's like, this is looking like it might be a TPK, then I'm like, we're running the fuck away.
The only time I don't run from TPKs is if like I think we have a solid shot or like we're doing really good because sometimes it's pulled through for us.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's pulled through for me and nobody else. I was the only survivor of our last TPK. It was great.
That I have to side with the player on that
No,
one.
I'm 100% siding with the
Yeah.
player. Like,
Yeah.
I understand how some of the callings could be used differently. I do agree with the DM, or yeah, with the DM on this one in certain aspects of this of just let it play out.
Yeah.
Because there's usually because like the darkness versus the like the wall of fire at the same time. Who says that he cast it? There's scrolls, there's wands, there's all sorts of different shit. I really hate the fact that he skipped the player's queued up thing because, like, I
Yeah,
get it.
that one
You're the
was
DM. You have control over a lot. You shouldn't be skipping that. If they say, "Hey, I do this when this happens," beautiful. Use that to your advantage, or use that as like a hell yeah. They're figuring out how to get past
or
this.
if you're so determined in that, let the dice speak, and the both of you do like an visual over the not behind the DM screen combat roll
Yeah,
for your two
100.
initiatives.
Percent
That I'd say would make
It
sense.
took me many years DMing to actually start fudging my rolls, and I really wish I started sooner because there are times that like because you've seen my rolls, they're not good. So like I'll make this really awesome boss monster. It'll be a perfect scene setup. Everyone's loving it. I keep rolling threes.
I won't fudge my numbers 99% of the time. And I
Respect.
think the only time that I have fudged the numbers is, I think, way back when I was early dungeon mastering, I had fudged a couple of dice rolls with my players. This was before I was playing with you, to help myself out. And I never liked how that felt. Where I will now fudge numbers sometimes is to keep players from dying if I
That's
really
valid.
didn't want that to happen.
No, that's fair.
I'll be like, oh yeah, it was not much damage at all.
You
You're
don't have to
okay.
fudge your numbers for me because I understand sometimes shit happens. I'm just not always happy with the
Yeah.
way my character dies.
Yeah.
Like
But
Damascus.
definitely, guys, let us know if you've ever had a dungeon master be that awful. Please share that down in the comments. I love to hear more and more stories about other games. It gives us good perspectives and makes us appreciate our games.
If you guys put like your horror stories in the comments and everything, don't make them stupid long. But yeah, put your horror stories in the comments. We'll probably read a couple of them.
Yeah. But we can't throw the ball this time because in the last video I almost broke the mic. So have a good one.
Hmm? Hmm? Oh, hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, well, good. There's more to come. Consider subscribing and eat that like button. It's delicious. Oh. Mm.